Hello and good evening. Today it is Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. And for this video today, I will be doing a viewer request. And truth is, this is a viewer request that I have been wanting to do for a while. Now, this video will be for my viewer Donnell, and today I will be sharing my thoughts on the relatively new New York Jets uniforms that they have been wearing since, I believe, 2019. And I believe that this current 21-22 NFL season is the third season that the New York Jets have been using these new uniforms. So, Donnell, I hope that you especially will enjoy this video that I will be putting together for you today. So, without further ado, here are my thoughts on these uniforms for the New York Jets that are still relatively new. This is their third season of use, I believe. So, anyway, folks, let's get started. So, when I look at these uniforms, when it comes to the design of them, I feel that the design that they used here is not as good as the design that this design here replaced. Now, truth is, I was hoping that the New York Jets would do something that most NFL teams seem to not be doing anymore and go completely retro, either to maybe their first season as the New York Jets in 1963, where they actually used a lighter green, I think more of a Kelly green and an even lighter green than this green here. And they actually had a jet on the side of their helmets for their first season in the NFL as the Jets. Now, I word it like that because in 1960, 1961, and 62, they were the New York Titans. But I was hoping they would either go with an early to mid-60s look or go back to the early 1990s uniforms. But anyway, obviously they didn't. But in my opinion, I do not like the design of the jerseys. I'm not a fan of the oversized New York wordmark that we see between the NFL shield on the collar and the numbers. And a little bit about me, though. I have to be honest, I do not like word marks between the NFL shield on the collar and the numbers. I like it where it's just simply the collar, the NFL shield there, and the numbers just below. No word mark in between, but that's me. But yeah, even though I'm not a fan of the jersey design that they went with, I must say, I am so happy that the New York Jets have gone back to using a lighter hue of green. In my opinion, it is about damn time that at least one NFL team has decided to embrace having a lighter hue of green once again. And truth is, even though these uniforms, including the jerseys, are not my favorite, I was also really disappointed by the way that there was no jet on the helmets this time around, even though I like that they've gone with a light green helmet. Even though I'm not a fan of the jersey, I must say I love the color, and when they wear the right combos of pants and or socks with each particular jersey that they're wearing, these uniforms are actually not bad. And in my opinion, this may surprise some of you, but after seeing some hideous Nike redesigns since 2012, let's be real here, folks. I must say, this is one of the better Nike redesigns that I have seen. And thankfully, in the past couple of years, I've been noticing a small trend that gives me a little sliver of optimism that maybe teams and Nike are working together to create uniform updates that aren't complete abominations like what we had to sadly witness the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wear. Now that we're going to be stuck for another few more years of the Rams wearing their new uniforms. You know, other teams like the Jaguars or the Cleveland Browns, I could go on. But when I look at some of the awful redesigns that we have seen in the Nike era since they've taken over the uniforms in 2012 in the NFL, this is definitely one of the better redesigns. And usually the only time I find I've been enjoying redesigns is when I'm watching horrible looks like the mid to late 2010s uniforms of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting replaced. Those might just, I think they're the worst uniforms in NFL history. And I'm so glad that the Buccaneers have come to their senses and gone back to their best look. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's their best look. But anyway, back to the Jets. This time around, they've done something completely new by introducing a black alternate jersey and uniform. Now, unfortunately, it's more of a color rush type uniform because they insist on wearing everything below the helmet in black. And I'm not a fan of that. And truth is, I see this uniform as a case of black for black's sake, and I honestly feel that it was a completely unnecessary uniform for the Jets to have. But at the same time, though, I don't blame the Jets for wanting to capitalize on this opportunity to introduce something new that the fans of the Jets have never had before. They've always had different options of green jerseys. They've even had options between a lighter green and a darker green jersey at one point. But they've never had a colored jersey that isn't some type of green. So I'm sure that the New York Jets have done well with uniform sales, but as I say that, I'm not a fan of the black alternate. But even though I'm not a fan of it, I must say, since they did bring it out anyway, the idea of seeing a team wearing a black uniform with a lighter shade of green on it is something I've never seen in the NFL before. So that's kind of cool. But that's the only little positive I get out of their third jersey. But as for their home and away jerseys, even though they're not either the 1963 season uniforms with the jet on the sides of their helmets, or either side of their helmets, or the early 90s uniforms, I must say, as much as I don't like the style as much as the style it replaced, I think the color is a big upgrade. And when they wear the right combos of pants and or socks with these home and away jerseys, not the black alternate because I'm not a fan of it, but even with the black alternate, if you wear the right combos with it, even that would look all right in my opinion. But especially the home and away jerseys, if they're worn with the right combos of pants and socks, they're actually, as much as I'm not a fan of the jerseys, they're actually not bad on the field overall. Here's a photo from the Jets' first season as the New York Jets instead of the New York Titans. There is the Jet on the helmets. That's what I'm referring to. That's something that completely baffles me about the New York Jets, is that they still have no helmet logo that's a Jet. I mean, even these early 90s uniforms, which in my opinion might just be the best uniforms the Jets have ever worn, at least in my opinion, even though it's a really terrible, mediocre attempt, piss-poor attempt at that, of having a little bit of a Jet on their helmet, at least they had some type of a Jet on their helmet. But you see what I mean about the uniform? I love the striping of it. And notice that the Saints are actually wearing gold pants with their away uniform. They should do that all the time, not just once in a while. But that's my opinion. So, let's see here. This and its white counterpart were replaced by the new uniforms that they've been wearing since 2019. So basically this was when they switched back to this style in 1997. Basically they modernized it a little bit by using a darker shade of green instead of the original lighter green, which I think was a Kelly green. And I don't think the new uniforms utilize the same green as the originals. It's a little bit darker, but it still looks good. But truth is, I do think that the style of the new uniforms is a downgrade over these, but I must say I love the return of a lighter green for the Jets. Truth is, I actually thought it would have been really nice, as I said earlier, if they would have taken these uniforms and brought them back to the lighter hue of green that they had in the 60s and back when Joe Namath, of all people, played for the New York Jets. I still think the lighter green of those uniforms from the 60s through to, I think, the early 70s or late 60s, I think actually maybe even the late 70s, that would have been better than what they've switched to. But these in the lighter hue of green would have been really nice with the original Jet logo on the helmets. But I'm just happy to see the Jets finally making a bit of a change and going back to wearing a lighter green, even though I think this style and its away counterpart are a much better looking jersey style. There's the white counterpart there than the new style that they've elected to go with. So there's another photo of the Jets uniform from the early 1990s, basically through till 1997. They wore this in the 80s as well. Honestly, I feel this is the best look that the Jets have ever had, even though I do love the Joe Namath era uniforms too. And as I said earlier, there's the little piss-poor attempt of having a jet on the helmet, but at least they actually had some type of jet on their helmet. But one thing about their new uniforms I'm not totally a fan of either is that they remind me a little bit. I'm not saying they're just like them, but they do remind me a little bit of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and unfortunately, not in a good way. It's too bad they didn't go with a better style uniform, at least in my opinion. But you see what I mean about the black alternate? I have yet to see them at least wear this with green socks, and the sad part is, I think that if they wore this with at least green socks to break up all the black, this would make the alternate uniform quite a bit better overall. I mean, they could try it with their green pants and black socks even for a game. I think that might even be a bit of an improvement as well. I actually think this would be really nice with maybe white pants or black or green socks. Either one, I think that could actually look really good too. But I'm not a fan of the monochrome black that they keep insisting on with this uniform. That's something that really takes away from it, in my opinion. And the sad part is, at least from my perspective, is if they did wear this with green socks, it would actually make it a lot more tolerable. But you see what I mean about their home uniform, and they've got the right combo. Even though I'm not a fan of the New Jersey style, the overall uniform actually looks all right. I don't love the jersey style, that's for sure, but the color, that bright green, the color contrast of the white pants and the green socks to match the jersey and the helmet, it is a decent look when it's worn right overall, and I love the color. I can't say it enough. And even their away uniform, if they wear it with green pants and white socks, that's a decent look. But my favorite look for their away uniform is this look here with white pants and green socks. It's a great look in my opinion, even though, as I say, the jersey style is not my favorite. But I must say, one thing about their new uniforms I really don't like is their insistence on a word mark on the helmet instead of some type of jet. I find that really disappointing. Let's see. So basically this logo is the logo that we've been used to seeing on their helmets for a long time. Let me see here. This is the logo they had in their very first season as the Jets, and I really do feel that they got it right the first time around. So I want to show you viewers their logo history briefly, just to kind of talk about the logo, because in my opinion, the biggest disappointment of all for the Jets' new uniforms is the lack of a jet as their logo. See, I said the Titans of New York were from 1960 to 62, then they rebranded as the New York Jets. Something about their black alternate uniform or alternate uniforms for the Jets that I want to mention from earlier. Truth is, I really, really enjoyed seeing those Titans throwbacks they wore about a decade ago. Those were really nice uniforms. Now, I'm not saying I want the Jets to ever switch to those, but in my opinion, those were actually nice to see for a change. But you see what I mean? The first year as the Jets, they actually had a jet as their logo. I mean, for Christ's sake, you're the Jets. have a jet as your logo. I mean, for historical purposes, if they want to keep this new updated logo here as a secondary logo, I think that's great. But to make that your primary logo and not even have a jet, I think that I'm absolutely baffled, to be honest. But you see, the new logo is basically a mix of old and new, where they brightened up the green. They went with more of a football shape for the logo to match the older versions of the logo before 1998, when they switched to their last look before they switched it up for their new one. And as you can see, this Jets word mark here is on the helmet of their 3 new uniforms. So, I mean, are you telling me they couldn't have at least stuck a jet inside the football? Just something to show that you're the Jets? I mean, that is the biggest disappointment about their redesign for me, is the fact that they still insist on not having their namesake as a logo. You're the Jets. You're the New York Jets. Have a jet as your logo. I mean, personally, if I were designing a uniform for the Jets, I would take their original logo here from 1963 and use it as the basis of a new modernized Jet logo. And I think something like that could actually be really cool. That's one of the rare cases where I think a modernization could actually be really good for their original logo. I mean, is the new logo better than the one it replaced in 2019? The one on the left? In my opinion, yes, it is, but not by much. I mean, it uses an older word mark. It has a brighter hue of green. It has a new New York word mark in the logo as well, but it's not, in my opinion, for a team called the New York Jets, this is not a good primary logo. For historical purposes, as a secondary, I could live with that, but not as a primary. That is the biggest disappointment for me about the new Jets uniforms. But also, another thing that does disappoint me is this big oversized word mark on the jerseys that says New York, and the style of jersey that they went with. Now, is this style of uniform as good as the style it replaced a couple of years ago? In my opinion, no. But I think that the color makes these uniforms better, in my opinion. I mean, I love the color. It's so nice to see, as I said earlier, that the Jets are finally utilizing a lighter hue of green. It's nice to see at least one NFL team using a lighter shade of green, even if the uniforms are not the greatest, in my opinion. But one thing about the Jets' new uniforms, I really do hope that the Jets avoid the monochrome pants and socks. Like, for example, when they wear their away uniform, I don't want to see white pants and white socks. If they're going to wear white pants, wear green socks. If you're going to wear green pants like you see here, wear white socks, not green socks as you see here. It makes it look like a green leotard. I'm not a fan of that. I believe you got to have some contrast between your pants and your socks. It makes uniforms so much better, like you see here with their new home uniform. And I'm hoping, and I actually would be curious to see if the Jets ever decide to rock their black pants and or socks with their home and away uniform, since they've got that option. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't seen them do that yet, even though there's a part of me that thinks that maybe it's better that they don't. But at the bare minimum, though, I would definitely like to see their black alternate uniform at least be used with green socks. Or better yet, white pants and green socks for some contrast. Even green pants and black socks would be a bit of an improvement, in my opinion. But I think black pants, black jersey, green socks to match the green helmet, in my opinion, would be a step in the right direction. But yeah, as I said earlier, my biggest disappointment with these is the lack of a jet as the logo. I find it baffling and really, really disappointing. But anyways, folks, to wrap up this video, I must say, even though the jersey style is not my favorite, I love the brighter shade of green. That definitely really makes up for the uniforms being a little bit disappointing, in my opinion. And I also think that this is actually, for one of those rare cases where we got a Nike redesign, and not a Nike redesign fixing a terrible previous Nike redesign, but a single Nike redesign that actually doesn't totally suck. This is actually not bad. And when the Jets wear the right combos with these uniforms, it actually makes them tolerable. And that bright green always looks good. And I will wrap up with this photo here. When they wear this combo, this is definitely my favorite uniform that they've got right now. I love the brighter green, and it's so nice to see that even though the Jets' new uniforms are not my favorite, they're embracing a brighter hue of green again. And in my opinion, to see at least one NFL team go in this direction has been long, long overdue. But anyways, folks, on that note, I'm going to call it a wrap for this video today. To my viewer, Donnell, I hope that this video was worth your time. I hope it was worth the wait. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, I hope that the rest of you watching enjoyed this as well. Do you agree with me? Do you think that these uniforms could have been better? Do you agree with me that the new shade of green is a big improvement? Do you think the old uniforms were better? Is there an older look you think the Jets should have gone back to? Do you agree with me in general? Do you disagree with me? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts down below. But anyways, folks, with that, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Once again, I hope you all enjoyed it, including and especially you, Donnell, who this video is being dedicated to because you requested it. But anyways, folks, until my next video, that's a wrap. Take care. And of course, as always, ladies and gentlemen, bye for now.